Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started here in just a minute. Welcome to our live chat, Unit 3 for Marketing 632. We're going to talk about developing your brand strategy and looking at your target customers and how important that is. Hopefully, you're all had good week so far. Getting to the end of Tuesday. Give everybody just another minute to hop on. I am recording this so that we'll have it in our archive for those who can't join live. As I've always said, if you have a question, please jump in and ask the question. Chances are good your classmates probably have the same question. I don't mind interruptions or conversation, so we can use it sort of as a Q&A as well. Be sure and slow me down if there's something you don't understand, and hopefully this will help you as you conquer Unit 3. I do have you all muted, and so if you do have a question, make sure you unmute yourself and ask the question. You can also put questions in the chat if that helps. And just a note, I am working on getting your IP Unit 2 graded. I've got about half of all of them graded, so hopefully I'll be able to finish the other half tonight. Might be a little bit later tonight, definitely by tomorrow morning. And I had one other thing to say. If you've submitted late assignments, I will get back to those as soon as I get the IP2 graded. So typically I will grade all current work and then I'll go back and look at late work. So bear that in mind. I do try and adhere to our standard of getting it done within a week of submission. All right, let's go ahead and get going. We've got a lot to talk about. I know you guys are probably tired. You've been working all day, most of you. So it is evening and we'll get going. I don't know why I'm not allowed to minimize that, but anyway. All right, so Unit 3, developing our brand strategy. And I do want to say you all, most all of you did a great job on the IP2 with your SMART goals. I could tell those who either read the course material, watched the live chat, or even looked at the PowerPoint slides did really well on it. Some that didn't pay any attention to SMART goals, we've got to maybe hit that topic again. I know it can be confusing, but a SMART goal is just one simple goal statement. You don't need to break everything out by the acronym and make sure you have that. You need to keep it simple and not confusing, thinking that, we've got a whole organization that's going to be working on our goals. We need a simple goal. What is it we're going to do? So those of you who didn't get that quite right, I did leave you notes in the grading feedback on that. Just again, a word about writing. I have noticed some proofreading, Grammarly, APA citations. I've got links in this PowerPoint, which I will send to you at the end of the live chat. Helpful to have some resources to assist you with that writing. And then just making sure you've got good file storage management. Every term I get students who, oops, I submitted the wrong file. I don't know if maybe it's a strategy to buy more time or if truly they've got that much disorganization going on, but try to create a filing system on your computer so you know exactly which files you're uploading for your course. And then just one other thing, I noticed some assignments that are pretty clearly totally generated by AI. AI can help you use ChatGPT, to assist you, but you do need to understand what you're doing. My big fear is you'll get out in the workplace and have to do the things that your employer's thinking you'll be able to do because you have an MBA. But if you've used ChatGPT to do all of it, it's going to be a real problem. And in some cases, if you didn't do the live chat or read the course material, you weren't knowledgeable enough to give ChatGPT the right prompts. So in some cases, the assignments were a little bit off. So, it's a tool. Use it to help you. Don't use it as a crutch. You'll be sorry later that you did. And I saw a meme on, I think it was Instagram the other day that said, hey, your future doctor is using ChatGPT to do all their homework. Now's a good time to tend to your own health. So just let that sink in a little bit. I'm worried, and I had a student in a class the other day that said something like, our isn't all this AI stuff, because I've been giving presentations on a lot of AI tools that can be helpful for marketing. And the student said, isn't it worrisome about all the AI? I said, yes, it's terribly worrying. It's terrifying, actually. We could have a whole generation of people that don't know how to do anything, and everything is relying on computers. So, this was a younger student. I just said, it's up to your generation. Figure this out, because it could get out of hand really quickly and be pretty bad. So anyway, just keep that in mind. All right. Yeah, SMART goals. I have a comment. I think I did 3 of the SMART. The SMART components, I will just review it again. The SMART acronym says that your goal needs to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. All of those things need to be present in one goal. You aren't writing 5 separate goals with each of them having one of those components. All of the SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound, need to be present in one goal. So as you're writing a SMART goal, make sure that it's simple. So I gave a lot of examples last live chat. Really, the easiest one was increase sales 10% by Q2. That's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's realistic, and it's time-bound. It doesn't have, I haven't broken it out and said, oh, here's one that's specific, here's a goal that's measurable, here's a goal that's achievable. No, all of those SMART acronym need to be present in one single goal. So if you had 3 goals, all 3 of them would need to have every single component of SMART present in each of those 3 goals. So every goal would need simple, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. They are not separate things. I see it so often, and it's probably one of my most challenging concepts to teach, and I've got to figure out a way. I mean, it's so clear in my mind, but yet so many students get it mixed up. So I've got to figure out a way, other than the hundreds of examples that I show, to get that across. I don't know if it's something in the way things are worded. Maybe I'll write a book about it or something. I don't know. Create some TikTok videos that help everybody understand. But that is a concept that I just think students can't really wrap their minds around. But yes, it's everything, the examples is the best way that I know. Yes, sell 50. So Jessica, yes, 50,000 in pre-orders in 30 days. Correct. That is exactly how you should do it. It's specific, measurable. You're going to do 50,000 in pre-orders. It's achievable, it's realistic, and it's time bound. You're going to do it in 30 days. That is absolutely 100% correct. So just one goal, all of the SMART acronym is present in that one goal. Now you could have several goals, but you need to make sure all of those components are present in that. So yes, if you did them correctly, you're going to get a grade that says, yay. And if you did them incorrectly, it's going to be, hey, did you not watch the live chat? Did you not look at the material I emailed you? Did you not read the course content? Okay, so let's get on with today so that we get everything in Unit 3 100%, but you guys are doing great, so don't worry about it. And I didn't take off tons of points if you didn't miss the SMART goal, but I may have cried and shed some tears if you didn't get the SMART goal correct. Okay, so I just want to make everybody aware of the CTU laptop program. I've got a live link in here if you want to check that out. From time to time, I have students that view their smartphone as a computer and they're trying to do assignments on their phone. I can't imagine writing papers on my phone. I can barely handle doing texts, and I try to do talk to text, and you would think I had a major speech impediment the way the text turns out when I talk to my phone. So a laptop program, if you need help or assistance with a laptop for your courses, and if you're somewhat at the beginning of your MBA program, I strongly urge you to check that out because it will be tremendously helpful for you. And then tutoring. If you need tutoring, CTU does have online tutoring. It's 24/7. You can do a variety of subjects. I know that they do have marketing. And so even if you're up in the middle of the night working on an assignment and your professor has gone to sleep, because I do like my sleep and need it desperately, go on to the tutoring and go to that smart thinking. They are available 24/7 and can help you. You can even have them read your papers through. So if you don't want to do Grammarly or any other kind of proofreading, they will look at that for you as well. All right, just one more thing to kind of remind you of the marketing concept. Marketing, my umbrella handles all of the marketing mix variables. And so what we're really doing when we put together a marketing program is looking at our customers, our people. We're looking at our products, which can be ideas, services, people can even be a product. So you look at celebrities, politicians, they're actually marketing a product themselves. It can be tangible, touch and feel products like the coffee mug that I'm holding. It can be anything from a service, doctors, CPAs, all of those things. We're getting into the summer months coming up, and you'll see location marketing for getaways and vacations. So all of those things fall under product. We've then got to exchange some value. So we have something the customer wants, the customer has money, which we want. So there's that exchange of value, and that is your price. Then you have place, which is how the consumer is going to get the product in their hands. And we have traditional bricks and mortar where you actually walk in, or we have digital channels where you may buy something online, it gets delivered to your home. If it's a place and it's a vacation that you're buying for the summer months, you're going to actually go to the place. Then we have promotion, and in those promotion strategies that we have is advertising, sales, sales promotion, which are like coupons, buy one, get one, deals of that nature. And those things are all really to incentivize trial of a product. And then we have direct marketing and public relations. So there are 5 major promotional strategies. When we look at digital versus like television, radio, what we look at are media channels. So old media is going to be print, radio, and television, and your new media is going to be social media, digital, and mobile. And then the handle that holds up the whole marketing umbrella is our research. We've got to have information on all of those marketing mix variables in order to make good strategic decisions. So whenever you want to think of or encapsulate what marketing is, let's put this umbrella as a reminder of how marketing works and what it actually is. We're learning all of these concepts around this marketing umbrella. All right, so let's look at your assignment for Unit 3. The first one is your discussion board. Those primary posts are due by Thursday. at 11:59 p.m. And then make sure you get those 2 peer responses done by Saturday. I will send reminders on that, but don't miss those points, particularly the engagement points. Students miss those from time to time, maybe forget to do the engagement. I think it's not all that important, but those points do add up, and they could be the difference between a letter grade. So do make sure you get those done. So for this discussion board, you're going to watch a video on the importance of big data and analytics in marketing. I have the link in this PowerPoint, which I'll be sending to you, but it's also in your course room in the assignments. So you're going to watch that video, and then based on that video, you're going to answer these following questions. This particular unit and this discussion board is going to be somewhat alarming to you, but we're looking at big data and all the information that is collected, because remember, the handle that holds up our whole marketing umbrella is research. So everything you do is leaving a digital footprint. Everything you do is helping aid in data collection by companies that will then use that information to figure out how to best market products and services to you to get you to buy them. So the questions you're going to look at are the following. How are these data points being used by companies? For example, a company that makes video games for Xbox or PlayStation can track the common actions that their players take before making an in-game purchase. That's an example of how data is being used by companies. So you're going to give an example. How is data being used by companies? And that's going to be based off of the video that you're watching, the importance of big data and analytics and marketing. The second part of that discussion board is you're going to describe 2 ethical dilemmas that businesses face when using big data. Just for example, if you share private customer information with your best friend without the customer's consent, would that be an ethical dilemma? If it's a private company, would that be an ethical dilemma? That's kind of for you to decide. So you're going to answer the question, how is data used by companies? And then 2 ethical dilemmas. Pretty straightforward. For some of you, you're going to be like, what the heck? This is terrifying. Any questions on this discussion board? I think the information after the questions that you're answering tends to trip up people. So just really look at your question. How is the data used by companies, and describe 2 ethical dilemmas. That's all you're going to do in that discussion board. All right, let's look at our individual assignment. And this one's pretty easy, I think, because we're going to talk about segmentation. So I'm going to cover that in the live chat, and that's what you're going to be doing in the individual assignment. So again, you have another video you're going to look at and learn about demographics and psychographics. So using what you've learned, you're going to answer questions. And so watch the video. You also have some course resources on demographics and psychographics and marketing, and we're going to cover it in live chat today. I'm going to talk to you, give you some examples on demographics and psychographics, and really how to segment and target your market, because your customers are the first marketing mix variable that you need tons of research on. If you get enough research and you understand your customer, your marketing will be easy. And I've often said marketing is easy. You just need to ask your customer. So using what you've learned about the difference between demographics and psychographics, you're going to answer these 4 questions. You're going to explain the purpose of demographics and marketing research. You're going to describe examples of demographics and how it impacts the customers for your brand. And then you're going to talk about what are psychographics and what is their purpose. You'll give a couple of examples, and that's where you're going to pull in that outside information, and that's where you're going to use your APA source citations. So you should have some in-text cites at the point where you use the information, and you should have some end of paper references to go with those source citations, because you're going to give examples to illustrate what are psychographics and their purpose. And then your last question, is it necessary to determine both demographics and psychographics to determine the target group of customers? And then you'll say why or why not. You'll also want to pull in some outside sources to support that. There's a template that's included. Make sure that you get rid of the examples and the end of paper references in the template. You're just using it as a guide to put your paper together. And then make sure you check your work. If you're using AI totally, I will know, please don't do that. That's not going to be helpful for you in the long run. And it does end up tripping you up in many instances. So please just do the assignment. There are the questions there. It's fairly straightforward and easy, and we're going to go over demographics and psychographics. Does anybody have any questions about that? All right, great. And I've been doing a lot of seminars on AI tools, and I'm working with CTU to come up with assignments where students won't be able to use AI. So that's the future coming this way. All right, so market segmentation, the key segmentation variables. So don't confuse segmentation variables with marketing mix variables, but your segmentation variables, the way that we divide up our customers or the way that we look at our customer groups is geographic, demographic, psychographic, and behavioral. So you'll notice that your assignment this week is based on two of them, demographic and psychographic. There is no single best way to segment the market. And typically, particularly in this day and age, where after you look at your big data and you realize how much information we have on our consumers, we often use all four of those segmentation variables when we define our customer group or what we call our target market. So we've got a lot of information, and particularly when you do social media marketing, and let's say you're going to do some advertising in Facebook or Instagram, they have so much data on us because of our online activity in both of those social media profiles. So the more information you have about the customer, and you can use all four of the segmentation variables when you're defining your audience in your advertising for social media. And so the more information you have, the more tightly you can target that market, the better your ad spend will be, and the better the outcome of your advertising. So keep that in mind going forward. All right, so if we look, geographic is a simple one. We'll just get that out of the way first. So geographic segmentation can be based on a world region or a country. We could do it based on a city or metro size. You could do it based on density of the population, or even based on climate. So, an example would be, if we look at my little tiny coffee bar, I just serve one little small community. So it would be ridiculous for me to advertise, to states that border Tennessee, where I am. I only want to really look at a 5-mile radius around my coffee bar. That would get me the customers that I want and need. So another example would be if we looked at climate. If you are doing, let's say you have a business selling snowmobiles, you're not going to go down to Florida to sell your snowmobiles because the consumers down there would have no need for those. Likewise, you're not going to sell surfboards in Wyoming. There's no place for them to surf. So those are some pretty basic and simple examples for how we would do geographic segmentation. Demographic segmentation is one of the easiest, and most every company is going to use some of the demographic components in identifying their markets. And so we look at demographics can be those simple things that are easy to measure. age, gender, family size, family life cycle, income, occupation, education, race, religion, any kind of generational thing, and then even nationality. So these are the things that every year or every 10 years, the United States takes a census of all of the people living in our country. That is demographic information that gets compiled. We all have access to that. You can go to census.gov and you can find out, you can type in your very own zip code and find out all of this information about the types of consumers that are living within a particular zip code. You could do it by metro size, metropolitan statistical area, all different kinds of ways that you can slice and dice that data. Now, if you wanted to access that data, it's really good probably the first 3 to 4 years after that data gets compiled. After that, you see a lot of changes and movement within a particular area, and that demographic data is going to change a lot. So the further away you get from when the data was collected, the less reliable the data becomes. So when we look at segmentation, so let's just back up a minute here, our segmentation variables. What we do is we can look at the entire world, the whole population could be potential consumers for us, right? So lots of people out there, billions of people, they could all be a consumer for a business, but not everybody is going to want to consume whatever it is you're selling. And so it's also impossible for us to market to everybody. Most companies don't have the resources to do that. It's incredibly expensive, and it would take a lot of people to be able to do that. And you're going to get people that have absolutely no interest in your product. So what you want to do is identify that ideal customer that would buy your product or service. And then you take that whole population and you divide it out into smaller segments. And those segments are going to include people that are very similar to one another. So each segment would have people that are almost identical. They have the same geographic, they have the same demographic, psychographic, behavioral. You can put them in a group together. And then what you want to do as a company is identify those segments that have the people that are going to be most inclined to buy your product or service. They match up that profile you created of the very best customer, and then you target those people. Because you know so much about them, you've got this segment that you can really research and uncover information and understand their behaviors and habits. You can really tightly target them. All of your promotional materials, all of your messaging can be exactly for those customers, making it easier for you to connect with them and them to connect with you and ultimately buy your product. So let's continue on and let's look at our demographic segmentation variable. And that's going to include things like age and life cycle stage. So we as consumers have different needs and wants as we age. I know that I consume a whole lot more vitamins and supplements than I did when I was in my 20s right out of college. In fact, sometimes I look at it and I'm like, all my money is going to all of my vitamins and supplements. And I didn't have to do this when I was young. So you look at these age and life cycle stage, just as an example, Procter and Gamble, a big consumer packaged goods manufacturer, if you were to go to the toothpaste aisle, they had different types of toothpaste for different age groups. If you have an infant or a toddler, you're going to find toothpaste specifically for them. It even has, you know, Disney partnered with them. You have Disney characters on your toothpaste tubes, and you have fun flavors like bubblegum and berry. As you get older, maybe into your late teens, all the way into like 30s, you're going to find toothpaste that has good flavors, really based on whitening, things that you're more concerned about at that age. As you get older, you might find sensitive teeth, things that help with your gum line, all the things that we worry about and become concerned as we age. So you'll find these different toothpastes for different age groups. Obviously, that is based on age and life cycle stage. One of the things that you want to do, though, is when you do your marketing, when you do your promotion and your messaging, you want to avoid stereotypes in that promotion and then look to promote those positive messages. What are the things that you can really play up that are going to be positive towards the benefits that the consumer will get from that product? If we look at segmentation, again, looking at our demographic information as we segment, gender falls under demographics, and you can segment based on the different requirements of a specific gender. Good example is like the picture I have on the slide for razors. If you go into, and I'm just going to use Walgreens because the Walgreens is right there on the corner where I live. It's just down the way from my coffee bar, and it's really easy for me to duck in there and buy things we need. So I'm in there a lot. If I go into the shave aisle, they have a whole aisle of shaving products. On one end of the aisle are the products for females, and on the other end of the aisle are products for men. The products for men have different blades, different handles, they're packaged differently. The colors are going to be the more primary colors. There you'll see reds and blacks and deep oranges, shades of gray, and you'll see different shave products with different scents for men. The other end of the aisle, you'll see the shave products geared towards females. The handles are different, made to fit the contour shape of our hands. You're going to find different blades, sensitivity strips, different colors. You'll see pastels, pinks, light blues, peaches, yellows. Everything is looking very pastel-y in the female section of the razor aisle, and you'll find different shave products that have different scents and even really accommodating the different needs that women have in shaving. So that is an example of segmenting based on gender. The other demographic in segmentation is income. So you can identify and target people based on income. And generally you do a little bit of that because of the price points of your products. So a good example is the luxury goods market. They really identify and target those who have a lot of disposable money. They're going to be more affluent. They're going to want to spend money on products that will show off the fact that they are affluent. They want to pay more money for those products. Are those products made in such a superior way that they command the high price tag? Maybe not, but consumers want to have that status symbol. And so companies will put the price up there so that those consumers can show off their wealth or their status by carrying those products. We can also look at low income as a lucrative market. I know a product that they sell almost exclusively in the Dollar General, and that is typically marketed towards lower income. And they do very well with their products. That is a very lucrative market. The products have a very low price point and they sell a lot of those products. So some manufacturers, on the other hand, will have different grades of products for different markets. And you'll see that in the car industry. If you look up the major car manufacturers, you will see that some of them have ownership in some down market types of vehicles that have lower price points. And then they also have luxury lines that they own that have those higher price points aimed at status and luxury. So you may try to get the whole swath of the market. If you're a company, you'll have different brands for these different types of consumers. So our last two, and you're going to be talking, just remember in your individual projects for Unit 3, you're only going to be talking about demographics and psychographics. So I just covered demographics, age, life cycle, gender, income, education, those types of things are demographic. the types of things that you would find in the US Census. If we look at psychographic segmentation, which is the other category that you're going to be looking at for your IP, that is dividing a market based on social class, lifestyle, or personality characteristics. And I'm going to give you some examples of that here in a minute. The other one is behavioral, where we divide our buyers based on their knowledge of a product or their attitudes towards a product or their uses. So if you are a member of a company that has loyalty rewards, I think we all succumb to the bonus points or the loyalty rewards. That's dividing you by behavioral segmentation. So you're incentivizing consumers to use more of your products, or if they're in the market for that type of product, to choose your product over another because they're going to get these points that will help them out in some way. If we look at psychographic segmentation, there is a company called SRI Business Consulting, and they do what they call the VALS psychographic segmentation system. I have live links in here where you can learn more about it. You used to be able to take the survey. I need to update my PowerPoint because they blocked that survey from students taking it. A lot of marketing professors used it as a really good way to showcase psychographic segmentation. You could take their survey and figure out where you fall on their segmentation system. And it was a really great way to do that, but apparently they were inundated with all these students taking that VALS survey. So that is no longer available, but you can go to their website and learn more about it. And what it basically does is divides consumers based on all the psychographic things, how they think and feel and why they buy things. I've had students take it before when it was available and they'd say, oh, this survey is that's not me at all. I'm thinking, well, you're the one that answered the questions. And then I've had students that are like, oh man, this is spot on, because it will put you into groups. Either, you know, you could be strivers where you're really trying to get to a certain level. You could be thinkers and you're more thoughtful about the types of products and services that you choose. So it really divides consumers up into these buckets or pockets, and it helps marketers. If we know the psychographic segmentation that's going to be most likely to buy our product, we can learn a lot about the customer group that we're targeting, how they think and feel, and what kinds of things will help them to move and actually make a purchase of our product. So behavioral segmentation is our last one, and it is can be a number of different things, occasions or benefits that we seek. We see a lot, you know, Easter is coming up, so Hershey Kiss takes advantage of all the holidays. You'll see them wrap the foil in different colors for all the different holidays. At Halloween, we had oranges and blacks. At Christmas, we had red and silver and green, and they even had a little commercial where the Hershey Kiss is a little jingle bell ringing in those different colored wrappers. We've got Easter coming up, so you're seeing those Hershey Kisses in pastel colors, pinks and blues and yellows. So they're really looking at promoting those products based on the occasion, and that would be the holiday. And then you can do things based on benefits sought. This is, I'm going to give you an example of occasion, and then I'm going to give you an example of benefits. Coca-Cola did a great job with this campaign, looking at getting that morning coffee drinker that really didn't particularly like coffee, but they wanted that pick-me-up beverage in the morning. And so they actually took their Diet Coke can, wrapped a Java jacket around it, and had a good morning campaign in an effort to increase the consumption of that soft drink as an early morning pick-me-up, going after that market that wanted the caffeine pick-me-up, but didn't necessarily want it to come from coffee. And then benefit segmentation. So I have an example here of the Marriott hotels and resorts. Also, you'll find Hilton does exactly the same thing. these brands have different hotels based on the benefits that consumers want from those hotels. Hold on just a second. So if you look at Marriott, up at the very top is the Marriott Hotels and Resort, the JW Marriott Hotels and Resorts. Those are going to be sort of a one-stop destination. So if I'm a consumer and I'm taking my family on a vacation and we want to go somewhere and be there for a week, I may pick that JW Marriott Hotel or Resort. I know I can stay on the resort property and everything that I'm looking for will be there. They'll have a variety of restaurants. They'll have, swimming pools. They'll have all the amenities, things that I would need, hotel fitness center. Everything is right there on that resort property. If I am traveling, say I'm going from, on the East Coast and I'm going maybe from New York and I want to vacation in Florida and I'm driving, I may choose to stay at a Fairfield Inn, or I may stay at a Courtyard. Those are going to be hotels that I will find off of exits on my way as I'm driving. I'm only going to spend a night there. They're for that type of traveler. They've got the free breakfast there, or the breakfast buffet. So I don't have to worry about the extra cost of going finding breakfast for my family. I'm just spending the night there and I'm getting that breakfast. Let's see, somebody left a question. Yeah, Choice Hotels also has great points with them. Good call there, Jessica, pointing that out. I have an example because I'm a member of all the different hotel groups, but I probably use Hilton the most. And I have a kind of humorous example for them. I had a family thing that I had to go to in Hilton Head, and it's me and my kids, so I've got to take my kids wherever I go. And the Hilton wanted me to become a member of their Hilton Grand Vacation Club because they noticed that I always stay at Hilton. I accumulate the hotel points and I use the hotel points towards different stays. So they had called me and they wanted me to look at their Hilton Head property that they had just built. And I thought, well, I have to do this family thing in Hilton Head. So I'll go listen to their little presentation, and then I will use those free nights to, go to this family thing without having to use my hotel points or pay for a hotel. So I kept trying to arrange it, and the Hilton girl on the phone, she said, well, we don't have any availability at the resort, but you can stay at a Hampton Inn. And I just said, I'm coming to Hilton Head Island. I'm going to be there for 3 or 4 days with my kids. I don't want to stay at a Hampton Inn. And she said, she was like aghast, and she said, what's wrong with Hampton Inn? I said, absolutely nothing. I love Hampton Inn. I stay at them a lot. In fact, that's where I get most of my hotel points. I said, they're great to spend a night and I get that breakfast and all the things. But if I've got my 2 kids with me and I'm going to be there for 3 or 4 days, I really don't want to stay at a Hampton Inn. So then she said, how about the Hilton Garden Inn? I said, no, I don't want to stay at the Hilton Garden Inn. And she said, well, what's wrong with the Hilton Garden Inn? I said, nothing. It's fantastic, but it's a Hampton Inn without the free breakfast. So I was explaining to her the actual Hilton benefit segmentation. She did not realize it or appreciate it at the time. Anyway, long story short, I ended up not doing that. Eventually I did become a Hilton Grand Vacation member, but I used the free nights for a stay in Orlando, and I took my kids to Discovery Cove for spring break. So anyway, lots of different benefits of their different hotel properties, and they segmented their market. They knew and understood what types of travelers they had, and they created brands or hotel properties to accommodate those benefits of the particular consumers in those groups. So benefits or behavioral segmentation could be based on user status. It can be based on usage rate, and that's where those points and reward systems come in, and it can be based on loyalty status. So the whole idea behind it is if you've got a selection, and oftentimes I'll use like a sandwich restaurant. Sometimes, well, I don't pick my son up from high school anymore. He drives himself, but I would pick him up and he'd say, I'm hungry. Can I get a sandwich? I would say, okay, well, where do you want your sandwich? Where do you want to go to get this sandwich? So in his head then pops up what we call the consideration set. He's thinking of all the available places that he could get a sandwich in and around where we live. He knows the benefits of each sandwich place. One has really good meat and cheese, another one has really good bread, another one has really great sauces, another one has really great toppings. He's going to look at and think about what is most important to him at that particular moment in time, and that's where he's going to go. So based on that benefit segmentation, and you're popping up your consideration set of options, companies want you to say, hey, if I go and pick this place, I'm going to get more loyalty points. I can use those points to get something free in the future. That's like me with hotels. If I'm looking for a hotel, I am going to pick a Hilton because I can accumulate those points and then I can use those points to get something free in the future. So that segmentation is helpful, and companies generally use multiple segmentation bases. So like I said, out of the four, out of geographic, behavioral, psychographic, and demographic, we're probably as marketers going to use all four of those because we have so much data about our consumers. And the more information we have, the more tightly we can identify that consumer and target them. So we use multiple segmentation bases to get a more defined target group. So I'm going to show you another company, and this one does have examples that you can actually go to and play around with it, which is kind of fun. But a company called Claritas does something called a Prism segmentation system. And it divides households into these 66 different cluster segments. And then within that, 14 different social groups. So what's really fun about this is that you can actually go on, and this is a live link. You'll be able to click on the Claritas website, and it's you are where you live zip code profile. You can put in your zip code and it will pop up these different segmentation groups of consumers that live in your zip code. So these clusters come in, and they give really helpful, funny little names. You'll get a little picture. And then it'll give you a lot of detail about the kind of cars that that consumer drives, the things that are important to that consumer, what kind of restaurants they eat at, what kind of stores they shop at, what programs they watch, or social media that they use. So it gives a lot of really good data on these little cluster groups. If you're just getting the free sample, it's going to be a little bit limited, but if you're a company and you're buying this data, really helpful. And so an example of how or why a company would use it, let's just say my coffee bar is wildly successful, and I know the types of consumers that I serve, and they are the consumers that really value my coffee bar. If I want to put another coffee bar in another location, I would use Claritas. I would look at the customer groups that are in my area, and I would look to Claritas to provide me with the zip codes that also have these same types of consumers living within that zip code. The other thing that you need to be aware of is I do this example with my students, every year. I've been teaching for 25, 30 years now. I have watched the zip code change where I live. So the clusters are the consumer groups that were present when I moved into the community 16 years ago are very different now. So you will see a lot of shifts in population, people moving in and out, and that will change the particular clusters of a given zip code. Really important to keep your eye on it and know and understand what that movement looks like and how the demographics have changed. Well, not just demographics, but psychographics, all of the behavioral, psychographic, and demographic information. So it's kind of fun to look at and do, and you can see, oh yeah, I recognize that's spot on for my community. I understand now the people that are in the grocery store shopping amongst the same aisles that I am. So in order for a segmentation to be effective, when you identify those segments, they have to be measurable. You have to have enough people in them, you can actually measure them. They have to be accessible, like how will I reach these people? Is it possible for me to get access to these different segments? You want them to be substantial. It has to be a big enough segment that when you bring them through the customer journey and down through the funnel of awareness, interest, desire, and action, that you will have enough consumers taking action because that funnel narrows down. You need enough consumers that are taking action that it's going to be profitable for you. So you need a substantial number in whatever segment you pick. And it needs to be different. You want it different enough that you know if I make an offer to this segment and I make a different offer to that segment, they are two different groups. They aren't going to overlap. And then you need to be able to take action with them. So if your group is on Facebook and here are the different companies that they like, you know that that's easy for you to take action towards obtaining them as consumers. And so target marketing involves evaluating the segments, selecting the right segments, and then being very responsible in how you communicate with those segments. So our market targeting strategies are, we could either have a mass or undifferentiated market. We're not doing any segmentation at all. We're going to target everybody broadly. Nobody does that. Even if you were to say Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola doesn't do that. And if you went to the World of Coke in Atlanta, you would clearly see that they do not do that. You go into their tasting room and they have so many different products in an effort to reach different target markets. So it would be very hard to do a mass or undifferentiated marketing strategy. You'll see sometimes small businesses try that because they have this fear of losing out on a sale. But if you are targeting broadly and you have an undifferentiated strategy, you're going to spray things out there and you're not going to hit anybody. It's going to be terrible. So don't ever do that. A differentiated strategy is segmenting and then targeting a few segments. Companies all do that differentiated. And then a concentrated or niche marketing is where you have one very specific segment. You may not have 2 or 3 different segments you're going at. You're going after one very specific niche market. And then a micro or local or individualized marketing targeting very narrowly is what I do with my coffee bar. I'm only looking at a small group of consumers in my tiny little town. And so that's where your strategy of looking at and making sure that it's substantial. I don't really have enough people right now, but guess what? My community is growing so fast and it is getting so big that it's going to be, very substantial. So laying that groundwork and watching the business grow is a good thing. So those are our different targeting strategies. And I'm going to include these slides. I'm not going to go over all of this, but it just solidifies what I had just mentioned. And then choosing that targeting strategy, some things you're going to think about are your company resources, the variability of your product. Can your product change for different market segments? Looking at your product's life cycle stage. Are you growth, introduction, maturity, decline? Where is your product? the market variability, how different is the market and how does that market change? And then looking at your competitors' marketing strategies. What are they doing? And how can you do something a little bit differently than them to stand out? And I know, like for my coffee bar, my competitor strategies are mostly drive-through. They're looking for that fast food consumer. So I go the other way and I niche and I look for consumers that want handcrafted, that want high quality coffee and not necessarily just quick coffee. Any questions? Before we finish out, I'm going to send this PowerPoint to you. I'll do it through your CTU email as well as your personal email. And then the other thing, oh, here's a question. Do psychographic and behavioral segmentation have a lot of overlap when gathering and analyzing data? Not necessarily, because they look at different things, and the difference between the strategies, you know, I give the behavioral one for the hotel brands, okay? And then the psychographic ones is really looking at like customer. If we go back, let's see if I can give you an example on psychographic. Psychographic is really based on your social class or your lifestyle, and how you go about choosing things. So if I'm maybe a striver, I'm probably not going to spend a lot of money. I want to strive to buy these products, so I'm going to save up for them over time. So that's going to be a little bit different than behavioral. Behavioral is more based on my usage, and my wanting to like the loyalty reward points, those types of things. So they're very different. They're not going to have a lot of overlap, but you may find a group in your psychographic segmentation that is also present in a behavioral segmentation that you might have. So yes, you could have a little bit of overlap, but psychographic and behavioral look at two completely different things. It is a little bit overwhelming, yeah. But if you have questions, do send to me in Messenger. I had a student last week text me. Don't text me, that's complicated. And I get hundreds of texts, and I end up, if students text me on my phone, I'll get students that will, believe it or not, actually text me late at night. Don't do that. I'm typically asleep. So that's kind of intrusive, but you can message me through the CTU messenger system. That is the easiest and best way to get a hold of me. But remember, I am a human being. I'm not a robot. I'm not, you know, I'm not 24/7 like the tutoring center. I will get back to you as quickly as I possibly can. And that's the best way to get a hold of me if you do need quickly, and I'll do the best that I can on that. So utilize the CTU messenger system if you have questions as you go into the assignments and the work for this week. And I'm going to send this PowerPoint to you. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great week. Have a good evening, and we'll talk next week. Thanks so much, everybody.